Alright, let me show you how I developed this sketch into a fully fledged character. I'm going to start by blocking out a few shapes. But while I do that, let's have a little chat about who he is. So this guy is Copper. He's had a few different names over the years. DJ Fox 1, DJ F1, but I think Copper is going to be his real name and others will just be nicknames. I decided to put him on a BMX. Put a milk crate on the front. I could put spray cans in the front or a small funny looking alien. So previous drawings of Copper have a very pronounced pointy nose. Every time I draw it, it's slightly different. Also, foxes in real life, they don't really have a pointy snout like that, so I want to make it look a little bit more realistic. Here I draw a few versions of the head. I feel the first one's a little bit too dog-like. I'm not really happy with this second one, but the third one's kind of getting there. It's a shorter snout, but it's got a bit of a point to it that feels more fox-like. I think this one's the winner, so we'll add that to the body, get cracking with the rest of it. This guy was the third character I designed. After designing my two dogs, I wanted the next animal to be different, so I chose a fox because it's part of British nature, but also it's quite an urban creature. Little copy and paste on the back tyre, and I think we're done for this section. I decided that the crate on the front with the spray cans in doesn't really fit this character. This character's a DJ, he's really interested in the music, and so if he's going to have something on the front of the bike, it really should be something to do with music. I'll go with a boombox and decide to tie the whole thing down. So the next step is the final sketch. My sketches are quite finished. I like to have all the lines in place as a good guide for inking. I don't know why I use magenta, I just like it. I find it a little bit easier on my eyes, and when it comes to inking over the top, you can really see bits if you miss them out. We're making decisions now on what clothes to wear. I decide to give him a military style parka. In later drawings I make this camouflage. So I'm onto the inking now. I'm using my own custom made pen for the inking. It's a brush pen with a fairly big variation, so I don't have to keep changing pens for thick and thin lines. At this stage I start adding more details, pockets, zips, the sergeant stripes on his sleeve. As I've said in previous videos, these guys are disguised wearing human clothes. It's not so important for the fox, but I want him to fit in with the other characters. And one of the reasons I always give them turn-ups on their trousers is because they'd borrow trousers and the trousers would be too long. I had these big bulky pockets. I feel like he's probably got a lot of stuff to carry around with him. Here's where those tight sketches really guide me. I'm following the sketch closely, but I'm not rigid with it. You need to be able to add a little bit of flair on corners, curves, just to give it a bit of character. I do sometimes use the quick shape tool. I try not to use it too much. It feels like it's cheating a bit, but it is really handy for nice curves or really straight lines. A little addition of the single trigger finger brake. I think it was called the gold finger brake back in the day. For the boombox I wanted to make it big, but I didn't want it to cover a lot of his body. It's designed in the proportions of a big old boombox, but it's actually quite a lot smaller than they were. So we're filling in the bottom half, the rest of the bike and the trainers from a German brand that we all know well. I probably can't do that in the long run, but because this wasn't part of a comic then it didn't really matter. I've drawn quite a few BMXs in my time, so I don't really need reference for them anymore. I get a lot of people online saying, "How'd you draw that so well?" I actually put a lot of it down to studying product design at university and understanding how products are made, how things are put together, where the seams go, where the bolts go, light and shade of an object. And there we are, line work done. Now let's fill him in. I'm really pleased with how this new head has worked out. This becomes the go-to reference for all future drawings of Copper. I'm filling in the shade now. I just do all this on a multiply layer. I use a custom version of the studio pen and then just work in either black or 50% black. Sometimes I'll do the layer on a 50% opacity, sometimes I'll use the pen on a 50% opacity. And sometimes I'll have two multiply layers so I can build up the darkness of the shadows. After I'm done with the shadow, I do exactly the same for the light. I'll take the same studio pen set at a 60% opacity, and then I'll add all the highlights. I'll use an airbrush as an eraser and just soften some of the edges. If you've been following for a while, you'll know I'm a big fan of adding fun little graphics to my scenes and characters. For Copper, I decided that his cap should always have a chicken related slogan on. These last 2 stickers and I think we're done. And here we are. Here's Copper, aka DJ Fox 1 or DJ F1, vinyl collector, musical master, chicken shop connoisseur, a streetwise fox about town.